Hi guys, Jayde Frederick here, the creator of xxSTEAM, and the Scene in STEAM is a conversation series where I sit down with my friends and we talk about topics that are relevant to us as STEAM majors or individuals looking to pursue careers in STEAM. And STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math. So I hope you enjoy as you watch us discuss the scene in STEAM. Hi everyone, welcome to the Scene in STEAM. And our first guest on this show is Jewel Hairston. Jewel, how are you today?
I'm doing so well, Jade. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Of course, I had to, you're my girl.
Period.
So Jewel, you are a biochemistry major. You're very
Yeah.
busy, you're an Aeolian.
I am Neolian. I do sing in the choir, yeah.
You do. Mm-hmm. You're a researcher. You have like 4 published papers by now?
I do have 4 published papers at this point.
That's insane. And you're 4 published papers and you're 21 years old.
This is true. All of these things are true. I would love to say that it's all because of my doing and that I'm, just the best scientist in the world, but that's not true. I've been very lucky and very blessed by the opportunities that I've been presented to do research and publish.
That's amazing. So what is it that you love so much about the research process and the scientific process and your major, biochem?
Okay, so first of all, biochem is the best. It's the best of both worlds. I get to explore the natural sciences, but also understand the physical sciences beneath and behind them. And I think that it just gives you a better rounded view of what science is and how it works on the large scale and the small scale. But research is my thing. I love labs. I am not a lecture girl. If I can help it, I would never go to a lecture ever again, but that's not how it works. But
Right.
when I'm in the lab, I feel free. I feel like I get to understand things. Because a lot of times I feel like in lectures, they push, okay, this is how this works. Mm-hmm. And then you say, why? And then they say, it doesn't matter. You'll learn that in the next class. But I'm not the kind of person who learns that way.
Right.
But in labs, you get to see how it works and you see why it works. And that's really been my favorite place to be. And so that's my favorite thing about the research process, seeing why things work. Because the why can teach us so much about other subjects and we can apply it to so much more. So that's why I like labs.
That's amazing. So what about labs and biochem that you mentioned the lectures you're not so much of a fan of, but what else do you think you may not like as much about being a biochem major that you would say to other people looking to become biochem majors?
First of all, I ride for biochem. I'm gonna start there. Off rip, I'm a biochem girl. Okay, I ride for biochem. I think it gives you a great sense of the holistic view of science.
Right.
However, it's hard. Biochemistry is hard. There's a lot of math involved. I am not a math girl. If I were a math girl, I would have been a chemistry major, but I'm not. It can be overwhelming, the amount of information that you need to know, because you need to know pretty much all the things that biology majors need to know, and a lot of things chemistry majors need to know, and a lot of things mathematics majors would need to know. So the sheer volume of information that you need to learn and understand in order to be a successful biochemistry major is daunting at times, but it's not impossible. I promise if I can do it, anybody can.
Okay, yes. We love the confidence.
Thank you.
And I'm sure any incoming biochem major will be happy to hear that. So, having to know all that information and doing all the other things that you do, like I said, you're an Aeolian, you're a singing group, you do research, you have a very tough major.
Yeah.
And you also miss blue and gold, and you also work. So in all those things, what do you do to just relax or to avoid burning out, if you do?
Well, burnout is real, and it definitely can happen before you know it. So I remember, okay, funny story, in high school, I didn't study, didn't feel like I needed to because I kept getting A's. That's not the best way to do this whole learn to study thing, but it's how I did it. So when I came to college and I realized, oh crap, studying has to happen. I need to actually remember all of this stuff, I would let studying take my whole life from me. No basketball games, no skating, no hanging out with friends. Study, eat, maybe, drink a water, go to bed, go to class, study. And I remember one time I went to one of my mentors' office hours. He was my general chemistry teacher, and I went to his office hours, and I almost passed out. And he was like, "Jewel, when's the last time you ate?" And I was like, because I didn't remember. And I feel like, but it didn't feel like such a big deal at the time. But neglecting your health and neglecting your mind and neglecting your spirit and neglecting the time that you spend with yourself is it's a thing that I feel like sometimes gets pushed on us in STEM.
Right.
Sometimes in STEM, our teachers want us to be the all-knowing student. They want us to be the perfect student who's always on top of things, and that's a lot of pressure, especially because you're young. I'm only 21 now, but when I came in, I was 18. You're young, you're impressionable, you want to impress your teachers, but now I've learned to be a more whole person. Like I said, biochem is all about the wholeness of science, and it's also taught me a lot about wholeness in general. So being a whole person to me is taking time to cook for myself, or taking time to call my friends on the phone and talk about not science, because both of us are science majors,
Right.
and it's very easy to talk about, okay, so what did you do in Summer Luck today, or what did you do in OChem today, or are you studying for this tonight, or do you remember how to do that math equation? But I think it's important to intentionally not talk about science, intentionally talk about, how are you today? Did you do your hair today? What new makeup do you have? Talking about things that are not science related is a good way to remind yourself that science is not your life. Science is your profession. It might be something that you're very passionate about, but it's definitely not something that can consume you, because if you let science consume you, you'll lose yourself in it. And I want to feel like I want to feel my accomplishments within myself. I don't want to feel like a robot who did this science. So taking time for yourself intentionally, taking time for your friends intentionally, going out on the weekend, not just studying all the time. Studying is important and it's good and it helps you do better, but it's definitely not something that you can do constantly. You'll burn yourself out. So
Absolutely. And health is so important for us as not only STEAM majors, but as Black women. And we've had so many conversations before, just that we talk about how Black women, that we face a lot of unethical treatment, or in the past we have, being invalidated, dismissed. As a researcher and as a patient and as someone who have had emergencies in your family where, your family's in the hospital and you don't know how they're going to turn out, what are your thoughts on the treatment of Black women in hospitals and healthcare?
Okay, so first things first, as a Black woman, the world around us is not designed for us. So we're already 10 points down. Immediately, the world around us is designed for white men. I am the opposite, which leads you to discover that when you're a scientist, sometimes other scientists won't respect you or your work. Sometimes they'll pretend like you don't know what you're talking about. And the same thing happens on the general level in healthcare. So you can go to the doctor and say, oh, I've had cramps. I've been bleeding for too long. And they'll say, lose weight. This is something normal for your demographic of patients, all the while you are suffering. And I think that it's important to find Black women in healthcare to make sure that you are protected as a patient, to make sure that your family members are protected as a patient, which is why I respect you so much, because you are doing the work to become one of those women. We are statistically unlikely to be doctors. We are not the majority, and it's hard. Being a doctor is hard. Being in healthcare is hard. It's taxing on your mental health. And so I know why a lot of people don't do it. I also know that there's, the scales are stacked against us as far as going into STEM in the first place and then going into medicine. So I know that it's not entirely our fault that we're not represented, but finding that representation is ideal. And then when you can't find the representation, I think that it's important to advocate for yourself. Um, the angry black woman stereotype, we get it a lot. It's something that I've gotten all in the name of advocating for myself, but I'm willing to accept the stereotype if that means that I will live. If if me being pushy or angry, that's not actually anger, it's just, standing up for yourself and standing up for your family. If it means that I am the angry black woman, I'll take that. As long as you advocate for yourself in those spaces, you have a better chance of being good.
Absolutely. And thank you. I also admire you because, doctors, we can do all the prescribing we want, but we need people who actually do the research. And I think a congratulations is in order, actually, because someone got into grad school.
School, girl. Your girl's going to have a PhD. Okay, it's giving Dr. Hairston.
I know, that's right. So you are a woman in STEAM, or as often is referred to, a black woman in STEAM. And it's something that, people acknowledge because it's something that black women haven't always had the luxury of becoming. Do you think, though, that it's overused, or that it should be, oh, you're a black woman in STEAM, or can you just be, I'm in STEAM and this is what I do? What do you think about that?
So I love being a black woman. I love being a scientist. I love the intersection of the two. These are all passions of mine. However, I feel like a lot of times the accomplishments of black women in STEAM can be shrunken down by she was the first black woman in the world to do this. But really, I was the first person in the world to do this. I was the first human being in the world to discover this, to complete this procedure correctly, with a good turnout. And I feel like a lot of times they'll try and be like, she was the first black woman, when you're the first person. And that is something that we should acknowledge. I'm the first or the only person who could ever do this. That's insane. That's wild. And they try to put it into a smaller category to diminutize it, but that's not fair to me. However, being a black woman in STEAM is important when it comes to representation. But everyone can see that I'm a black woman. That's not something that people have questions about. So when I feel like the exposure of being on shows like this, doing what you're doing, the exposure of talking to young girls and telling them, hey, you can do this too, or starting programs to encourage them in this field, that's when being a black woman in STEM matters. It matters when you're doing stuff that helps other people come up and encourages other people. But it doesn't matter when I make the accomplishment and I'm the only one to have done it. You know what I mean?
Well, Jewel, thank you so much for coming today. I can't wait to see what you do in the future. I know I'm going to come into your lab one day and you're just going to show me all this research, and it's going to be amazing. So,
Listen, I've got big plans. I'm figuring things out.
That's right. And yes, we're so glad to have you, Jewel. Thank you. And thank you guys for watching.